Yes, my friend, welcome to another video. This is the Self Group and my name is Anas Labid, and as usual, without further ado, we jump straight into it. Usually when I say today's topic and I give you like a word about what's the topic today is different. Today I want to be talking about a situation, do you understand? I want you to become self-sufficient, self-reliant, and I know many people, they might mistake my words for like saying, for example, self-sufficient, meaning like that you have to work and provide for yourself. And that's not what I mean. Obviously, yes, that's necessary, but that's like the very basic of it. You need to understand when I say you need to be self-sufficient or self-reliant, I mean in every aspect of your life, to understand, even from the emotional point of view. Because it doesn't matter if you're like a good person or a bad person and you come from a family that is different. For example, let's say you're a really ambitious person, or maybe like you tend to be morally correct while other people in your circle don't. Be your family, the one that you were born in, or the one that you've built with your wife, or even your friends, or like your co-workers or anything. And this is very, very frustrating, because that's why I believe that nowadays we have all of these kind of problems, because people, they never truly put enough work into knowing thyself. Because I believe there are so many people, they shouldn't have kids, they shouldn't be allowed to have kids. Because yes, I absolutely understand procreating, it is a natural instinct that people have, but obviously like what makes us different from the different species, animals, plants or anything else, is that we have free will, and by having free will we can actually make decisions. But the problem is that when people lack awareness and they don't really put the work within themselves, that's where things go left and generational curses create themselves. And people, they grew up in unhealthy environments, and they end up just like making reality worse for everybody else. And obviously I get it, whether you believe in the holy scriptures or not, whatever the religion might be, you probably know that like there's gonna be end times, and at that point we're all gonna be judged for what we did or what we didn't do. And yes, at that point, if you make it, then you're gonna get to live in paradise, you're gonna be like mentally free forever. But obviously nobody came back from the dead, so you can have faith, but you can't say like that's exactly what's going to be happening. So with that being said, I want to say to you that it is the most frustrating thing ever, being misunderstood, especially when you're trying to do something, you understand? Because the choices are either two. It's either like you carry on with what you want, or you just like stop. There is no in between, you understand? And yes, I had these problems for many years in my life, and I came to the conclusion that I need to be okay with being misunderstood. And yes, so know thyself. That's always the core message of these videos. Because if you don't know yourself, you're not gonna know where you're gonna go. And there are like multiple things to why it is important knowing thyself. For example, like how many people do you know, or you heard of, or you read about with that of themselves. And usually people, when they get to that level, is because they truly believe that they have no other option, that they're stuck with whatever they have at that time, and that they can't do anything better. And I want you to understand that that is just like a temporary feeling. You need to understand the nature of humans, like how energy flows and all of that. Because it's gonna come like certain instances where you're gonna like start thinking like, is it worth it? Why am I in this situation? Why no matter how much effort I put, things seem to never work, or like no matter how pure my intentions are, I never seem to get where I'm supposed to be at. And that's exactly when you need to put your ego in check, and you need to remember that nobody owes you anything. It doesn't matter if you're a good person or not, you're always at mercy of the other party, because that's a risk that you have to take in relationships. Otherwise, you just decide to close yourself off and be by yourself forever. But then obviously that kind of lifestyle can be like miserable too. So you need, long story short, you need to choose you're miserable in this life. And yes, it is hard. It is not easy. Do you understand? Because like if for some reason in life you have the right people like by your side, and even like your career is kinda okay, you don't need money, you're kinda okay with your mental health and stuff, then like you should thank God and be grateful and absolutely try to make things better. I understand nobody, you don't owe nobody nothing, but you need to understand that we are a collective consciousness. We need to understand that humans have this detrimental nature that tends to ruin things. And unfortunately, it's not that like the fact is not that every human is self-destructive or like tends to be detrimental to whatever. Because like obviously there are like okay humans and bad humans, do you understand? And the fact is that about okay humans, the humans that are okay, that they can kinda they try to make things better. They are not enough compared to the people that detrimental humans, the ones that like ruin everything for everybody. And like you know how many times I think about it, like life would be so much easier if humans like they just knew themselves. And it's like how many times like everything goes smoothly, it can be business, relationship, whatever, and then it comes to one person that is not involved in the situation, isn't, and they don't really or truly hold like any relevance in the case scenario, but because of them, you tend to have like a more negative experience. Or let's say you still decide to cling onto your values, and you're, let's say you're an empath, you're a good person, and all of these kind of things, and then you say like, listen, I can't let bad people influence me. But yet, it comes at a certain point where you get tested for real, when you're like, how come? How come I try to make things better and people yet they still like go against it? And it simply doesn't make sense. You're like, if somebody behaved with me this way, like I'd definitely like be behaving in the right way back, or try to like, I don't know, like as I said like in the video before this one, there are empath and narcissists. For example, there is somebody, you could do them a favor and they will remember it forever, they will never forget it, and when it's gonna be time like to pay back the favor, they will. And there are certain people, they just like keep abusing whatever nice they have. Do you understand? Like for example, those families that they have, like their parents, they tend to be maybe they're ignorant, they're not really educated and stuff. And let's say for some reason, like they had kids, and these kids they went to school, and they like society like raised them up pretty much. At a certain point, like these people, they still like they abuse their kids, because probably like their kids can do things for them, can help them out, and they just like keep on like abusing them, until every single kid in that family leaves, and then like when they're left alone, they're like, oh, my kids, they left me, nobody wants to speak to me, nobody wants to. You see, if you're the kind of person, you're watching this video, if you knew yourself, if you knew thyself, you wouldn't be in that situation. Do you understand? You would have nurtured the positive qualities of your kids, and they could have made your life better. And the same way, you as a kid, you can be the person that like makes your parents' life hell. You understand? Because obviously it's like both ways it can go. And I know like it is like a pretty generic topic, and it's like not very well structured, but I'm pretty sure that like if you hear my words, some of you will share the same experience or the same way of feeling about it. Do you understand? How many times did you meet somebody in your life that truly deserves it, but yet they are in the worst situation possible, and the harder they try, the worse they get? At a certain point, start questioning yourself, or like these people start questioning themselves. Like, is this like what really life is about? Like, I mean, I try to not let things get to my head, but yet they do. I try to not get angry at people, but yet I do. Or I try to be understanding towards people, and these people, they don't try to do the same with you. I know that like saying know thyself, it sounds easy. Oh, know yourself. knowing yourself is not, hello, my name is this, I'm this age and I live here and I've got 2 cats and this and that. That's absolutely no sense. You need to understand why you choose what you choose. Do you understand? Even when everything doesn't point, where nothing points to the right direction, it seems like you're like, I've been grinding for years, I've been working for years, I've been saving for years, I've been investing for years, I've been doing everything for years, yet nothing pays off. Nothing pays off. And that's why nowadays it seems like a degenerate lifestyle is the way to go. Like, let's say you're a believer, you believe in God, you believe in having virtues, everything points out in you becoming like a shit person that doesn't care, that has no value, and for some reason, like, if it happens one day that you lose it and you just like slip into the bad behavior, for some reason you see like you're always nice with somebody, all of a sudden you're mean to them. These people, they start seeking your validation, they try to like kiss your ass, to understand. And then, for example, like, you're always giving to people, and then they just like abuse your giving, to understand. All of a sudden you just cut off, and people, they start coming down like beggars with no dignity and stuff. And you, from a higher standpoint, you feel bad for these people, and you are like, I need to try to do good, but that's pointless. Why? Because like, that's what you've been taught, probably by religion, your family, or virtues, or whatever you believe in. You think, now I need to be good to people, even though these people, they've done this. And I always think about this kind of thing, and I'm like, because I've seen people in my life and I've went through it, so like I can like kind of talk about this thing like from different perspectives. And at that point, are you the bad person for thinking that these people, they should just like go? When I mean go, like disappear from this planet, you understand? If somebody is poor and you're trying to help them out and they don't want it, at that point, like, you need to understand that like helping people is not always the right choice. Being there for people is not always the right choice. Sometimes you need to become like a tyrant. You know, if somebody like is suffering because of their circumstances and you're afraid of them telling you, oh, you're a bad person because you're not helping me out, they are the bad person in the first place for thinking like that or trying to guilt trap you like that. So this video, usually in the videos I try to give like advices or lessons or whatever, like something to discuss about. But this very video is something different. It's more about questions. It's more about getting your brain to work. Hopefully somebody is gonna comment on this video and is gonna share their perspective. Because like sometimes you're like that far from becoming like a shit person, somebody. And the thing is, you know what? Like, when you know that you had the predisposition to become the ugliest person out of them all, that if you wanted, you can just like from one day to another like hit the switch and make everybody's life hell. But then you're like, what's the reward in that misery? You understand? So like, that's if, because obviously I understand there are a lot of people on the internet trying to give advice and stuff to people, and I'm one of them. But the difference between me and these other people is that I don't classify myself as the highest form of knowledge or advice you can refer to. Do you understand? I know I'm in the process. I know there are people more developed than me and there are people that are less developed than me. Both case scenarios, and I fit somewhere in the spectrum. That's why like when I record my videos and I post them out, like some people, they might click my videos and hear me talk and they're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or like this very basic kind of thing. These videos are not for you if you think like that. These videos are for those people that are like in a lower level of understanding or awareness, that they still have to figure it out, or possibly even younger people than me. You understand that like they are in their early 20s or the teenage years. And the thing is like that if you do your work by yourself, your shadow work, like introspection, all of this kind of thing, if you do it by yourself and you're coming from a toxic environment, it's gonna take you forever. You understand? You might even get to your 40s and you're still trying to figure it out. But the problem is that life goes by. If let's say for some reason you're not healed, or you're not like properly positioned, and you try to do what everyone else does, for example, you're in your late 20s but you're still not that mature, and then you're trying to like make a family or like put on family stuff, then you're gonna have kids that you're not gonna be able to look after. They're gonna suffer because of you, and most likely they're gonna go out there in society and start becoming degenerate individuals. And at this point, it's like, do you blame those people that they say like the world population has to be diminished for one reason or another, or like maybe when the elite they say like we are not gonna help these people, we are not gonna eradicate homelessness. If you think about it, in the end of the day, that's completely makes sense. I know it sounds like very harsh, and this is not my usual way of thinking, because I always think about like helping people, do this, do that. But for example, I've been working in this place, and I always see this homeless guy coming and putting newspaper on the floor and start sleeping there. And the very first days, I mean, like you don't know, you understand, like you see this person, he looks like he needs help, but then like with the months passing by, you try to first to give them some food, then like a hot drink, then you start talking, and then this guy tells you, I need the jackets, and then you bring him jackets. But then this person, for example, said, no, I don't like this jacket, I don't like this jacket, I want the jacket in this color. I mean, I don't know you, but in English they say beggars can be choosers. So like, how on earth are you being a chooser right now while you're sleeping there? You understand? At that point, like you start looking at this individual, you start like observing, and this is like a real life experience. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not that something that I'm inventing. That's like what I go through. Like, and I've seen this guy. And I'm like, how dare you? Do you understand? That like people that are more in need than you, and you ruin the image of homeless people, of somebody who truly needs. This guy comes always like clean shaven, but like then you can tell when somebody has a house, he looks after themselves and just like puts some dirty clothes right before leaving. You understand? So at point, like me and my colleague, we decided to face this guy and say like, listen, like why don't you look for help, or maybe like I don't know, homeless shelter, this. And he was like, no, like I have a house, and the government pays me help, but it's not enough money. And I'm like, because for who doesn't know, I live in London. That's like one of the capitals of the world. You understand? And you want to tell me that here in London you can't like make yourself a living with your dignity? And I always see this guy. There are like plenty of times, maybe customers they come, they buy like a hot tea, they bring it to him, and he just like refuses it because he wants like a warm coffee, because he likes coffee. You understand? So he doesn't want to drink. I'm like, how on earth? You see this person, they like thought about you while you were laying down, and they thought like, let me add a tea to my bill so like that guy's not gonna suffer, and they bring it back, and then you say no, like then you truly deserve the worst. You understand? At that point I start thinking like, if I was like in a position of power and stuff, I would just like go there and like remove you from there straight away. You understand? And as a matter of fact, I would like put like, for example, like do start doing some background check, and if you truly are healthy and you're not working, at that point you're gonna suffer the worst, because that's what you deserve. Because God gave you your health, you're fully healthy. You understand? You have a house, you get help with the money, and then you sleep there on the ground. People bring you tea, you don't want it. But then when you see, for example, because main customers that they come in this place are Arabs from the Gulf with a lot of money. You understand? They come, they spend. You understand? At a certain point, you see like this guy, when he notices around like the Arab stuff coming in and stuff, he just like stands up and just like goes and starts looking in the rubbish, just pretending he's hungry, so people are gonna start buying him stuff. And the thing is, like, why am I talking with so much conviction? Is because I serve this guy. Do you understand? If I'm there like 7 hours or 8 hours, I see 2, 3, 4 customers coming there, like buying you like big amounts of food that you've eaten, and then maybe like 3 hours later, obviously when it gets busy again and you see this rush of people, then you start doing this. That means like you're a complete idiot. You understand? He does it because they're like people, they feel sorry for him, they go and they put money. You see, in my life, I would never want to be a person like this. Do you understand? Like, I believe in having dignity is the very first step of you being human. Because from the moment that you remove dignity out of the window and you do whatever, you sell yourself, you do anything that like involves not having dignity, at that point you're forsaking yourself, the person you are. It's like selling your soul basically. And yes, I will never respect anybody of this kind. Life is hard, you understand? Especially when you go through struggles and then you see somebody taking advantage of like the system, taxes, this and that. I understand like humanity will never be correct or fair, and there will always be discrepancies. But at this point, you are like, it's like I don't know. You understand? Like nothing makes sense. Hardworking people, they suffer. They suffer and they have nothing to show up for. They show for. There are like people that do nothing and they get stuff. There are people, let's say, they do like questionable like business practices, and they still make it. You understand? And that's what it is pretty much. When will you ever know what's the right answer to the right question in the right context? You will never know. That's why I believe, and when maybe like I have conversation with people, they say like, oh, why you're religious, why you believe it. Yeah, I believe day of judgment has to come, because it just doesn't make sense to me. Like in physics, they say like you can't destroy energy. Energy just like moves from one shape to another. It's like energy is what energy is, and it just like keeps flowing in different forms and shapes. Do you understand? So like, if you think about it, and let's say this planet like just goes, it is needed like a day of judgment, because what stops me today from just starting and becoming abusive to people, maybe like embodied the archetype of pure like psychopath, like a narcissist, be completely fake, you understand, double faced until I reach what I have to reach, and when I reach what I have to reach, I just burn people that I used to get there. Then for what reason? For what reason? Yeah, you might get there, okay, you have money. At that point, you will always have to live like a parallel lifestyle. To understand, you can never truly be who you are, like who you want to be, because you always have to put this mask for people. But yet, let's say the opposite scenario. You decide that you don't want to do that because you want to live with yourself. You're still suffering. You understand? So it comes at a certain point when you start feeling angry, and when is that anger justified? When is that anger justified? It's the same as like countries saying like this country has the right to defend themselves. So when do I have the right to defend myself and become like a shit person towards people? You see, like that's the hardest part in life, because if you're watching this, don't ever think that people know better than you. Yes, they might, because they might on. What do I mean by that? So like people know better than you. What? Okay, let me rephrase that. So how do you like? You should never think that somebody has a better capabilities or he's more qualified than you to do anything. Yes, they might be at that point in life at that exact timing, you understand? But you, as a human being, you are the same as everyone else. You have a brain, you have two eyes, you have ears, you understand? You have hands. You can the same thing as somebody else. The only difference is just like your environment while you were growing up, the information that you decided to consume, the situation you put yourself in. That's what makes the individual. Because in the end of the day, nobody knows what they're doing, and I guarantee you that. Because like if banks, government, like institution knew what they were doing, we wouldn't like have inflation problems. We wouldn't have like wars. We wouldn't have like many things. So the reality is that like what causes all of this conflict in the world is just different belief. Simple as. Probably people in the Middle East now with the World War III, like you know, like the jukeboxes, they believe that we need to rush things like into something very bad, that the world is just simply gonna explode, nukes everywhere. So we just gonna accelerate the Armageddon. So like the end of times is here. So like everything just falls, the Messiah comes, and then that's twisted. That's twisted. You understand? Twisted for you, but not for them. You understand? Or somebody believes that you were born as a cow, just like for you to be used like a cow. You understand? You were born, they use you for tax, they use you for this, they use you for labor, they pay you minimum wage, and then you will lose your mind, and they just say, like, label you as like a bad apple out of all of them. So they say like, nah, this guy's that, boom, throw in jail or do that. When people will truly respect values, high virtues, have respect, because like at least for me, like I'm tired, I'm done with this. Do you understand? Like I try to keep like the right path for as long as I can, but I realize that like a degree of using a strong hand is needed, and you can apply this information in your case scenario. Do you understand? And as I said in the beginning of the video, this is a very like unstructured video because it's mainly like questions. I'm here talking the camera, you watching, just me question myself, and probably you questioning yourself with myself while I'm talking about this kind of thing. So there is, in life there will never be an indication. For example, you are growing and it comes this day, like for example a ritual, like a passage ritual, somebody comes and say, okay, now you became a man, you take care of this challenge and now you're officially a man. This doesn't exist. Nowadays you see 30 years old boys, you understand, there is no manhood, there is no respect. Every girl getting run through because I want to do this with my body, I want to do this with my body, and then they get older, they need like to prey on somebody. Do you understand? You see, like that's the thing. People are hypocrites. Do you understand? Because like I'm willing to do bad to you, but I'm not willing like to take the bad from you. Do you understand? I'm willing to like enjoy my life with different people, like a risk possibly like transmitting a sexual disease to your partner or to whoever you're with in that instance, but I'm not willing like for another person to do that with me. And if you think like that, then you're like a hypocrite. And I say this because like as a man, yes, they say, yes, man, you have like sexual urges, you need to do this, need to do this. I believe that like before anything, respect and virtues, those are the highest qualities like a man has. Do you understand? If you stay with your wife and probably you know that you're somebody who's sexually like wants to have multiple women and multiple wives, you need to make that clear from the very beginning. She either agrees or she doesn't. If she doesn't, then you keep carrying on until you find that kind of person. Do you understand? And I'm talking this like from a Muslim perspective, for example, because like I know obviously having casual sex and stuff like it's just easy access, but like I see people, for example, they want their wife to be virgin, but yet they want to have like a past. Do you understand? Or probably they get married with a wife and they want her virgin, use her, not use her, obviously like consummate the marriage and stuff, and eventually when they're tired, they just want to get married behind her back and not even divorce her, keep her as a wife. But like, you know, like I'm a man, I decide to marry, like fuck you and your mental health. You understand? That's a very hypocritical like way of thinking. And some people they might say this is a simp behavior, this simp mentality. No, I'm telling you that you are the problem. Do you understand? Because respect comes before anything else. That's why there are those people that are extremely caring and loving until you just disregard the values they operate within. Do you understand? And that's why if I respect you and you try like to make fun like of my, not make fun, try to play me for a fool, then at that point you're gonna see. And the fact is that these people, they are like also so dumb, they can't even truly fathom what the other person can make. Do you understand? Like at least me, do you understand? If I've been nice to us, if I see somebody who's the nicest person ever, do you understand, and then like they decide to trust me in one way or another and I decide to screw them, at least like I can know what this kind of person is capable to do. Because imagine somebody who's giving you their life and all of a sudden you just like ruin their whole world, and this person decide to come after you to off you. Do you understand? At that point people are surprised. Oh, why? Yes, because that's like how the law is set, that you can't harm anybody, you can't do this, you can't do that, because like obviously for one way or another you need to be controlled. Now if you think about the natural law of order, do you understand, that's exactly what's gonna happen, because nobody's gonna have it. And if you screw somebody and you put in a situation when somebody's after you right now, at that point there is nobody to blame but you, because you're a hypocrite and you thought you were smarter than this person, that you could just like have a way out. And that way of thinking, that's exactly the problem with all over the world. You understand? And I know because I've lived this my whole life, and I know for a fact that there is like this small group of elite individuals that they truly are virtuous, humble, they're confident in their skills, they can be dangerous, extremely dangerous to other people, but yet they choose to keep peace and order. Do you understand? And obviously peace and order is not profitable for the the humanity, do you understand? Whatever like the elites are and things. But obviously, like this, like talking on a big scale, but going back to your day-to-day life, like you start questioning yourself, when am I allowed to become a shit person towards people? When am I allowed to stop taking the abuse and just decide to don't do anything positive at all? For example, you might be abused by your parents your whole life. You grow up and one day you decide like, oh, fuck my parents, I don't want to talk to them. Do you understand? I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to do this. Or it can be like your siblings, or it can be even your kids. You understand? Then like obviously somebody sees the situation, because like obviously I'm not gonna go, oh, I don't talk to my parents, I don't talk to my kids, or I don't talk to my siblings. For one way, one reason or another, they get to see like what's the dynamic in your family. And they say, no, but you shouldn't. Those are your parents, regardless. But no, you shouldn't. You need to understand there are a lot of people they get abused by their parents. A lot of people they get trafficked by their parents. Do you understand? This world is deep. Do you understand? The judgment criteria. Do you understand? Like to judge if something is correct or not are completely upside down, and that's exactly the Satanist way of doing things. Do you understand? Half truths and then like exchanging things, so make a man a woman, man. Do you understand? It's like confusion. That's where like lies, yes, they are harmful, but they are not as harmful as half truths, because a half truths you think that you're going or heading towards the right path, but while in reality you're just being led to a path where somebody needs you to be there. Do you understand? It's like you're disposable. You understand? It's like somebody comes, or like I need somebody, and they know that like the position you're getting hired for, or like whatever, it can be even like street things, you're getting used for that position, so eventually you're gonna get arrested, or you're gonna get like killed, or you're gonna get put in different position where you've been used as disposable. And I understand this is the game, you shouldn't be trusting people, whatever, but you as a person that put these people in this situation, what do you think you're gonna get out of life? And that's why I truly, because like even if you have like your doubts when it comes to religion, the only true thing that I really like makes me believe there is like a higher being is the idea of judgment day. Because things cannot carry on this way, things have to be changed. We need a reset. With that being said, yes, welcome to the self group. We need a reset. We need a reset. People need to wake up. We need to make being respectful, highly virtuous, fair, and coherent good qualities back again. You know, I might sound a bit controversial, but the painter was right. And if he managed to take over a country like that, it's because he was needed. And that's why he managed to change things until they lasted. With that being said, the question is, when do you have the okay to become a shit person? Welcome to Dissect Group. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.